I love dungeons. Ever since my first encounter with one playing D&D, I've been fascinated by what they can be. They're works of art, and like film, they are a culmination of several other art forms. Beyond just architecture, dungeons are storytelling devices. They have variations of linearity, room order, interactability, and oftentimes complex histories. And like all art, they can speak to some deep part of you and hint at universality. In Persona 5, the characters delve into palaces, which are dungeons of the mind, made up of the creator's perceptions of reality. The architecture takes the familiar and changes it into something revealing of the character's twisted nature. People from the real world play roles in the palace that match how the creator views them. They are at once revealing and secretive, filled with danger and hidden treasure. In Stalker, desperate folk pay a guide to lead them into the Zone, a radiated place that allegedly holds treasure. Inside the Zone, there is a dungeon, and the deeper people go, the further from reality they find themselves. It goes on and on as the building becomes more nonsensical, and at one point it becomes so strange that
Здесь исполнится ваше самое заветное желание, самое выстраданное.
in the House of Leaves, a man discovers something is off with the measurements of his house, that it's larger on the inside than it is on the outside. The thought embeds in his mind and spirals out of control until he packs a bag and wanders beyond an impossible door and into a hallway that should extend into his backyard, but instead extends into a cold, lonely darkness. What I want to do is look beyond just the structure of the buildings themselves and investigate the dungeon as its own thing, because they are truly unique settings, a medium that only exists through interaction. A dungeon on its own could just be reduced to a bunch of architectural terms, but it's the introduction of people that brings out the true nature of the space. It's called a dungeon crawl, and we're going to go on one together. Starting with one of my favorite dungeons from one of my favorite films of all time, we're going to map Laputa, the castle in the sky. Before we begin the crawl, we need to know the context in which Laputa sits. Where does it come in the movie? What brings the characters to it? We need to know these things to know what the dungeon means to the characters and to the film. The first moments of the film tell us a lot. There are sky pirates attacking a ship, and on the ship is one of our main characters, SHEETA. Without words, we can tell that she's somewhere she doesn't want to be, because she's staring out into the sky. She wants to be free, and the person who holds her captive is Colonel Muska. Now, we don't know why he's holding SHEETA captive at this point in the film, and we don't know why the pirates are attacking either. But using the magical ability to fast forward and rewind, we learn that the pirates are after SHEETA's necklace, and Muska holds her captive for the very same reason. The necklace is an heirloom of SHEETA's dearly departed grandmother, and it has magical properties. This is important for a few reasons. First of all, it begins to tap into the importance of the past. The necklace was passed down, which is a fact brought up several times in the film. It's SHEETA's connection to her grandmother, to her culture. Towards the end of the film, it's revealed that Muska is also a descendant of this past culture, which leads to the second reason. The necklace leads to Laputa. But we don't really know its importance yet, so we have to dig a little deeper. Why does everyone want to go to Laputa? Each person has a reason, and it's in those reasons that we can find what Laputa stands for, what it represents. Patsu is a boy who lives in a once great mining town. The mines were dug so deep that they've created massive canyons in the land. The cities rest within these canyons while the miners dig into every hole they have, trying to find something of value. But the land's all dried up. There's nothing left for them to find. They work long hours into the night with nothing to show for it. Instead of adapting to the times, they continue to dig into their past. They refuse to change, and they're all dying because of it. But Patsu wants more. His father left long ago to find Laputa, and allegedly did. Patsu keeps his father's photograph of the Sky Castle in his house, and uses it as an inspiration to build his own plane. Like SHEETA, Patsu wants to escape. He wants to find Laputa because to him, it's his father's legacy. It's his past. There's this great scene after SHEETA and Patsu meet, and the pirates are chasing them. When the army fires on the lot of them, it sends Patsu and SHEETA plummeting down into one of the canyons, and into a cave. As the light of the necklace fades, Patsu gets his light working. There's something powerful there. They find a light in the darkness together, without the necklace. When it comes to Colonel Muska, he states the reason why he searches for Laputa in the scene after he's captured SHEETA again and shooed Patsu away in one of the most brutal moments of the film.
A little something to show our appreciation of your efforts.
Muska wants power. Supposedly, the crystal that keeps the castle floating is unstoppable and destructive. He seeks the past for catastrophic purposes, to use it for violence and evil. He practically gets a hard-on while the large Guardian robot is going on a rampage thanks to SHEETA's spell. And the film makes it clear how it feels about such a thing because back when they were in the cave, Patsu and SHEETA, the old man says,
"To forget that and then to try to use the crystal's power for selfish reasons will bring great unhappiness. You understand?"
Yes.
As for the pirates, we can assume they are after Laputa just for the money. I mean, they're pirates, it's in the name. But the pirates are all a family. It's a mother who captains the ship, her husband repairs it, and her sons act as henchmen. Whatever money they find on Laputa will be used to continue doing what they're already doing. So really, the pirates seek Laputa for family. We know the pirates aren't the bad guys of the film right from the opening shots. SHEETA wants to be free, and when she looks out the window, it's the pirates that she sees. They're framed as something good. Another great illustration of this is the dueling music between Muska and the pirates during the big castle destruction scene. The pirates get this exhilarating music while Muska's is full of dread. It's really beautiful scoring on the part of HISASHI. Lastly, when it comes to SHEETA, she doesn't even want to go to Laputa. She doesn't seek it. To her, the necklace is her grandmother. It's her past. She holds it close and uses it to comfort herself when she feels alone. We have the flashback where SHEETA remembers the spell her grandmother taught her for protection. She only decides to go to Laputa when she learns that Patsu wants to go, so they can go together. And then again when she realizes the destructive power Muska will have if he succeeds in his plan. Her goal is a noble one. She wants to protect and help her new friend. one forged in the dark of a cave. Laputa is the past, and each person is framed by the film according to their relationship with their own past. Patsu, SHEETA, and the pirates, they seek Laputa for their future. They use their past to make friends and move forward, while Muska seeks his past for destruction. He wants to live in that time and wield it like a weapon. This shot is a beautiful one as Patsu, SHEETA, and the pirates fly over the canyon and leave it behind. Laputa gets its name from the similar floating island in Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels. In that story, Laputa is home to people who worship the arts and mathematics but can't use them for anything practical. Their houses are all built wrong because they don't respect geometry. Most of them suffer from strabismus, which is when the eyes don't align with each other because they spend their time looking into microscopes and telescopes. The castle itself is where the king and the elite live, and it floats around the king's country throwing rocks down on rebellious cities. It's a satire. The elites live on another world but can scarcely take care of themselves. The other similarities are striking as well, mainly that the castle flies by magnetic levitation using a lodestone kept in the center. The inhabitants use their status to rule those below them and keep themselves isolated far above. It's easy to imagine why Miyazaki would think the castle is better off after they were gone, left to nature, and why going back there might be the work of a villain. Now we know the purpose of Laputa, and we can begin the dungeon crawl itself. In tabletop role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons, dungeons are divided into rooms or encounters. The characters enter a new chamber or area of the dungeon and face a challenge, a magical trick, a deadly trap, a monster, or another person. When they overcome the challenge, they continue through the dungeon into the next area where they face another challenge. The first challenge of Laputa is simply getting to it. If you have the necklace, you can safely land, but without it, Laputa is surrounded by a dangerous storm. It's important here that as SHEETA and Patsu face the lightning, it's Patsu's father that guides them. He sees his father in a flash of lightning. The movie is giving this reminder that the past isn't inherently bad, that it is important and useful, and that it's our two main characters who are using it the right way. You're going to be seeing some footage in the background because I was serious when I said I wanted to map this dungeon. Besides, Ghibli is very strict with copyright, so we're killing two birds with this one. When we see the castle itself, the fog is swept away by the wind, and we get this sublime moment. We're looking at the most crystallized version of memory we can find, held up high in the sky, magnificent, beautiful. A massive tree is growing from the center. What was once stone is now covered in moss and grass. A large metal guardian approaches our two main characters, but doesn't harm them. It only protects the bird's nest that uses this platform as a home. This is what Laputa is as a dungeon. It's a great image because we tend to think of civilization, man-made structures as the future, and untamed wilderness as the past. But Laputa twists that around. The castle itself is the past, and the plant life, the animal life, is the future. The vines are new. The birds are the new residents. The little foxes and strange fish are new. Humans, that's the old news. Laputa is telling us to let grow what may from the past, to let it be the bedrock for something more, just like how SHEETA and Patsu have used their semi-shared past to create a new friendship, and how now with the pirates they've created a new family, which is what both of their pasts are rooted in, SHEETA with her grandmother and Patsu with his father. To contrast this sanctity, you have the literal destruction of the castle at the hands of Colonel Muska and the military. They are blowing the doors down and plundering what's inside. You get this great moment after Sheeta's been captured by Muska and they've gone into the ancient magical center of Laputa, where the two of them enter the heart and it's choked with vines and weeds. Muska is furious. This new growth, this repurposing of this sacred chamber by nature is an affront to his legacy. He will not let something new grow. He must clear what's inside and take control. And with that control comes... it's an annihilation of the future, a refusal to move forward and grow. Muska severs ties with the only connections he's had in the film. First, with his two bodyguards, and then with the military. He doesn't need anybody. He's even willing to kill SHEETA if it means getting what he wants. Constantly throughout this crawl from room to room, the idea of moving forward is tested. The acrobatics that Patsu has to go through just to get back to SHEETA are astronomical. The boy's got upper body strength, like, come on, some of these things he does are unbelievable. And SHEETA, she is, well, let's face it, she is abused and dragged around by this man 4 times her age. He wields a gun at her and threatens her life. Patsu is shot at and has grenades tossed at him. And at the end of it all, Muska is going to kill both of them if they won't help. And that's where they face their last challenge. Will they trust in each other in this new future that they're making? The dungeon offers up this choice of either destruction or, well... Together they speak the words of the spell passed down from SHEETA's grandmother. The necklace grasped between them. And together, they leave the past behind. Laputa, as a dungeon, is a complex place. The text of the film states that an entire culture lived upon it, and other floating islands like it. The architecture evokes majesty, pride, tall archways, impossibly large chambers and buildings. It's a marvel of technology and magic, protected by robotic guardians that, at times, appear sentient and nigh indestructible. The marvel of Laputa as a dungeon does not just come from its past, but from what time brought it. Its majesty is not left under those tall arches, but instead it is held by what is left clinging to the roots of a massive tree. Laputa is a physical manifestation of the need to shed the past to reach new heights. After the spell of destruction, Laputa is no longer weighed down and can rise higher into the sky. It shed the past, the city, and is moving on with the future, the forest that grew from it. It's not a condemnation of what happened, but a permission to be rid of the things that hold you back, so that you too can be free. To be an artist or even a cartographer, but as promised, here is Laputa in all its glory. There are embellishments and creative liberties, but you can follow the path Patsu and SHEETA took through this dungeon. And now, if you play tabletop role-playing games like me, you can find your own path. The map I drew is poster-sized, 11 by 17, and I'm putting a link to a store where you can pre-order your own if you're interested. I have no idea if anybody will be, which is why it's a pre-order. I've had experience with shipping games, books, and posters before. It's sort of what I do when I'm not working on these videos. So if you have any worry about fulfillment, don't. I've got that under control. If you want to get a poster or just want to support me, this is probably the best way, especially if you want to see future mapping projects. This video took ages to put together, it feels like, with the script and all the art. So yeah, go pick up a poster and let me know what you think in the comments. What dungeon would you like to map with me next?